All right, in anticipation of SpaceX IPO filing for this year, we are going to kind of review how to buy an IPO and not have it end up like Figma and get trapped in it while it's down maybe like more than half if you bought it like near IPO day, right? You're down a significant amount. So I'm going to be sharing how you can be best prepared for SpaceX when it IPOs. So, I totally wasn't recording before, but here we are. So, for IPOs, the really, really important dates are when the first day the stock is open. And then since then, it's really, really important to kind of see how it goes, because either it can sell off like this or it can go like CoreWeave, which had a really, really big run. Right? It had a massive run from IPO and went up. Or you can have something that's kind of more disastrous as well, like Webull, which IPO'd. It peaked at like around 78, and since then it's been like slowly grinding lower and lower. Now it's like $4. So this is how you can try to kind of avoid being in this mess, holding and hoping for a long time, and how to know which IPO is actually worth buying and why the success of such successful IPO like these ones, like why these really kicked off, right? Because SanDisk was also an IPO, which I didn't know at that time. If I had known, I would have been like willing to buy because I saw what happened to CoreWeave. So for the key thing for IPO is that it needs to be in the right sector at the right time. So if you look at Circle IPO, it IPO'd kind of after the tariff run, but this was when the crypto clarity bill or something was being talked about, and Robinhood and everything was going on a massive run. And this is when it IPO'd. So it was kind of in a hot topic of like stable coins. So it massively went up to like $200, almost $300. And then it sold off from there. And then CoreWeave, it's one of the NVIDIA's top investments. So that's why it was a really hot IPO. And eventually it just went on a massive run. Since then, it has kind of struggled because they had debt issues and other financial stuff. But we can also analyze when it is a good time to buy after the IPO, so you don't deal with like massive sell-off and drawdowns. If you look at what else IPO last year? Oh, Bullish. I think this was another crypto that I remember seeing that IPO'd. Right, and this is slowly just drifting down. It's kind of holding here, but nothing much happening. So the only really significant one that's really running right now is SanDisk, and why we saw such massive gain is one of the reasons is because it was right at the beginning of where the AI memory chip like shortage was happening around last year, and it kicked off, and then it just never looked back since. So it was in a really hot sector with the AI trend. And right now, SpaceX is also really hot, right? It's like a big deal. NASA just did Artemis 2 mission, went to the moon, came back. So it's been a long time since space exploration has been done with humans, I think. In a long time, space has become like a really, really hot topic, and it's so recent. And I think with the entire space sector, if you look at the entire market, in anticipation of SpaceX and everything, you can also kind of check like which sector the stock is in, so you can kind of gauge if it's in the financial, if it's UFO is the space one. So even during this entire massive market drawdown, space barely went down, and now it's like bouncing back, one of the strongest stock. Whereas if you look at the entire this is the equal weight S&P 500, it's down quite a bit during this Iran war and then bounced back. Still nowhere close, but compared to that, you can see that the entire space sector is above. It's a very hot topic because of the SpaceX. So let's get to more of the analysis part. And I think for this, now that we've talked about what sector is really important and why the SpaceX has a really big potential, so one of the reasons I didn't buy SanDisk was because I didn't know where to buy it, and I knew it moved up so much, so I didn't know how to safely like get into the thing. But what I'm about to show you will help you. Either you can buy it at IPO and be like, I'll just hold it, or just buy it whichever dip comes, or you can buy an area where you can take the lowest risk, and that's probably what you want to do for quick returns too, because if you buy it around that area, you probably will not be holding and hoping that the stock will come back, right? If you bought CoreWeave around this price, you're like, oh, it's gonna go higher, and then it's just been kind of stuck here. So actually, let's go to CoreWeave, for example, because this stock actually goes pretty well with what I'm about to show you. I'm not trying to stock pick, but this is just like a really good example because it has movement. In some of the other ones, like there's nothing, right? So like there's no trading happening in here, so it's not a good example. But even this one reflects what I'm about to show you, and I'll go back and actually show it. So this is based on the anchor volume, and I learned a lot of this from Brian Shannon and Michael Moss, CMT. And so I really like it because it's anchoring to volume to very key areas, tells you how many people, like average participants, are in profit or minus since that time. So I'm going to get I'm just going to use this. So typically for IPOs, you want to anchor to the initial IPO day. Right, so I just have it as volume weighted average price. That's what VWAP is. IPO. So this is the IPO date for CoreWeave. So let's just make it orange because why not? And then another really key level you want to mark if you did miss this entire move is like the highest point it started to sell off from. For a lot of stocks, it will be the IPO, but it's not always the case. So for here, you can just mark this, which is the highest level the price sold off from. And as you can see for CoreWeave, over time, as more volume is traded, these lines actually do converge. So now as you can see, like since this trading day on here, we're actually at a really significant level in CoreWeave. So which means if it finally holds above it and like stabilizes, it could mean that it's finally ready to go up higher. And then if it fails like here, then it will sell lower. That's what it means. So right now, with the market rallying, it has managed to rally up to this area. And if you see, initially, when you want to join an IPO, is this, you anchor to the IPO date, and then this is very risky because IPOs move 20, 30, 40% really quickly. So if you bought here and then your risk would be all this, like you are risking like a fat almost like $15 on this, right? And then if you bought it here, you don't know how, it keeps going down, and then you hold it, you're gonna hold for entire drawdown. You could also buy the lowest one here, or like this date, and be like, if it goes below that, I'm selling, right? But this was everyone was watching this stock because it's NVIDIA's one of the biggest investments. So it came up to this volume weighted average price of IPO. Trump was doing crazy shit around here, so the market tanked, and this also tanked with it. That's probably what happened here. And even since the tariff recovery, which happened around here, this was still not getting bought. It was sold. it wasn't until much later it's actually started to get bought. So IPOs kind of do move slightly different from the rest of the market. So you really have to watch the volume weighted average price since IPO. And this is the first time the stock came above it and it held support. So you could actually buy when it held above it and risk below this, right? So this would be your risk line. You buy above here in this area where it comes up. Oh, that's an ugly scribble. You buy at this area, and then you just hold until whatever your system tells you, however you like to follow the stuff, you can hold. This is the IPO volume weighted average price. Another thing you can do is you can also mark the volume weighted average price since the day it started to get bought, and then kind of use that as a gauge. But I think this one has ended up being less significant to it because it responded to the initial IPO price, because it's where the most volume is, right? A lot of people are interested heavily, so like most volume is probably traded within this time. So it went up all the way to 200 before it was sold. So in this middle time, you can either hold it or you can just like do your own following. Maybe you can use like 9 EMA is very common, right? For this was crazy because it was moving 20 something % every day during that time. So if you didn't get in early, it was more risky to join, but it did go on for much longer than people did. Than people were expecting probably. If you were shorting from here, then you were suffering a huge amount of loss. So this also can help people who are interested in shorting the stock once the IPO hype has faded. And to do that, you kind of anchor to the highest point. And once you anchor to the highest point where it's selling off of, so if you were here, you would anchor to here, and then once it breaks that, you don't want to be selling it. To sell, you really need to see rejection from this all-time high. And then the next area it could go to is probably this volume weighted average price since IPO. That's what a lot of the IPOs move. And then around here, this was the first time the CoreWeave found the buyer since then, and it got bought. It's probably all these people didn't want to chase all this move, so they waited here and then bought, right? It was a very crazy IPO, so you could have also made a bet that there will be some buying here and that it wasn't going to go straight down. At least up to there. And then after this line, it's hard to tell if people will buy or not, because there's a lot of people trapped up here, right? What are the people who are in losing position going to do? They're going to, they bought. They don't want to settle at a loss. They're like, okay, I'll just buy a little bit here. I'll buy a little bit here. I'll buy a little bit here, and hope it goes up. And then their average is probably sitting around here, right? Like this average line. And then once it gets to average line, it's like, oh, I'm finally in profit, get out. So it sells. That's probably the mentality of people, right? That's if you bought a stock at 200, almost close to dollars, and then it went down to 100, you lost half your money. And they're like, get me out probably. So it kind of went at least up to like half before it sold off. It doesn't always happen, but since this was such a hyped stock and it's the first time it's pulling back so sharply, there's a really good chance it will do that. And since then, it has kind of been just sold every time it got up there. I think they had like debt issues, and since then it has failed to hold this all-time high and also the IPO. So then when it's sold from here, you do not want to be buying it because now people are looking to sell it. You can also volume weighted average price of the bottom here, and you will find that this was actually a really good entry point again if you didn't want to take overnight risk. But this seemed to be basing, so you can do a volume weighted average price since it was like starting to get sold, bought, and it stayed above here. So then you can also take a trade from around here to like at least the volume weighted average price, and that's what happened. And then it sold off from there again, got bought and then sold again. So it kind of bounced around this area, and now it's interesting because it kind of got more aggressively bought than these areas, right? This was like weaker buying candles. Now this is like buy, right? And it made it up to at least here before it was being sold. So this is actually a good level to watch for CoreWeave if their debt and financing thing is like sorted out. So that's how you look at an IPO. And let's look at another IPO that kind of followed this too. That's Circle. So Circle and CoreWeave kind of moved around the same time. So their high average volume thing is around the same. So Circle went up, had a base here, broke out again. Lots of huge gapping movements, crazy, and went up to $300 before selling to $178, and then it bounced up to around this price, around above this line, and then sold again. And then it came up to this average line from IPO, and then it found a massive selling from there. So that's when you know this is not when you want to get involved in this. It had some buying, but it didn't even get up to there. Sold off, sold. And then since then, it had kind of been not doing much movement. I was actually looking for when this will get bought again. I wasn't paying attention to it. And then it was doing this, and then suddenly it's above this volume, and then it went all the way up to this. I think this was with another crypto run thing. When the entire market was tanking, this was the only one going up. So I don't know if this was short squeeze or something else, but this volume weighted average line is also again something you can risk off of, and then it'll go up. It works really well with IPOs that have high interest and hot topic. This one is related to the stable coin crypto bill, Clarity Act, whatever stuff. So this was a really hot IPO in that. And now since here it's found massive selling, so now I'm not really sure where this will go. But yeah, this is where this IPO stands. And then if you look at something like, actually let's look at Figma, you can also on this one I can actually probably get rid of this line, because the only thing really matters for this one is the IPO. Okay, this is the IPO volume. It went up, massive sell, lots of selling. Sell. It came up to here. Actually, for this, if I put it to so this is the IPO line, but if I move it to the all-time high, right? The all-time high is the next day where the selling really started. The first day people were just buying. So if I anchor it to the second day, this actually comes up to where the all-time high average price is, and then people sold. So from the second day where people are trapped, it got sold from there, and since then it hasn't come up. And what you can also do is if this was the next significant selling where the sellers were, you can also like see if this is not going to hit. Like when this hits, this could be another level, but it's so weak that it has not hit that. And also for Figma, the sector it's most related to is the software sector, right? Software as a service type thing. And this entire sector has been a disaster and has been massively sold off since September. So and Adobe is the most like relevant probably stock compared to like something close to Figma, right? And Adobe has been massively sold over the past 2 years. So I don't expect Figma to go up until Adobe probably starts to recover. So it's kind of looking at, or like the entire software sector. So you have to really see when things are getting bought. If you look at Robinhood, that's another great example of an IPO. Right now it's kind of struggling, but sometimes IPO take a really long time. So if we look at Robinhood, I don't even know when it IPO'd. I didn't know about this. This was a long time ago. Sometimes IPO, like this is Robinhood IPO, okay? Whew, this is massive. It's really struggling. Probably tanking with Bitcoin right now. I will just put it to here. That's not the IPO price, but let's just do this one over here. And then I think we will only just need one IPO date for this because the base was so long. So typically this is a really, really good example of an IPO. If you're looking and interested to buy it, but you don't want to buy it when it's going low. I mean, this one could have gone lower. You could have just taken a risk that when it was basing around here, that this probably is the low, right? Because it was close to $6. But if you wanted to just follow along with where the volume weighted average price is and you're really looking for it to start picking up faster, you'd want to buy it around like this area where it like reached the volume and then it still bounced up. You could buy it here, risk off $18, and then it started to run. And then if you miss that time to buy, the next thing you could do is just anchor to this area where it really started to get going, and then you would be able to find areas like here where it came really close to it you can risk off of. Same with here. So this has to do with positioning, and now it's kind of really weak. I feel like it did not get bought with the market. I don't think the whole Bitcoin thing is helping. It could even revisit this IPO level. It's so weak, like no one's buying it. Like it's so bad. It's doing so bad. Anyway, this is another IPO. So now with all this stuff, you should definitely be prepared for when SpaceX will IPO, so you know it could either take off from day one, like how Circle did, or it could take a longer time. And you can also watch the space stocks to be probably rallying or getting bought with it. Why am I trying to search SpaceX? So it's not there. And then if you look at something like Webull, it just IPO day price thing, it just came up to it and immediately found selling, and now it's like all the way down here. No one's buying it. So this is when you don't really want to get involved with the stock. If you're like, it's only $4, $5, I'll buy a little bit. Worst thing you can do is go to zero, right? So, or you can wait to see if it'll go even down to like $3 or $2. And you can be a bag holder then. But like if you were trying to be a bag holder here, hoping it would do the same thing Robinhood would, like it just never did. It went up to IPO sold, IPO sold, IPO sold. So that's why IPOs are very different. And there's a lot of case studies you can do with IPO. Very interesting because they are very different from the regular markets. They move differently a lot of the times. They kind of do their own thing, so especially in the beginning. So as long as there's like up and down movement like this and not a straight selling, there is a lot of things you can take advantage of. I'm going to expect SpaceX to probably behave something like this. If not, it's going to take off from day one. Like either it will do something like this and then it'll like, you can look to buy here and then it'll explode up, or it will be probably like Circle where it's just like bought. I don't even know if it'll sell off like this, like that. It's just gonna be crazy. And I wonder how Tesla is gonna do with the SpaceX thing, because it's when did Tesla IPO? Actually, I don't know. I'm kind of curious. I feel like it's a lot older. I don't really know when it IPO'd. I might have to go back years. But I will think that when Tesla IPO, it probably behaved similarly because it was such a hot stock. Oh wow, 13. Oh wow, it was not trading so hot for a really long time. Oh wow. I didn't know it was this dollar stock. It really started to move here. Oh, I didn't know it started to move like in 2013. Yeah, I could have bought so many Tesla stocks here. Damn. Okay. I thought it was overvalued when I was in college. I don't know, that's what I heard, but I just never knew because the first time I started to look at Tesla was... Oh wait, but it's stock split, so I don't think that price is reflective of it. What price did Tesla IPO? Because I feel like it's probably because it's stock split, that's the thing. Oh, yes, $17. Okay, so I don't think this will work very well for Tesla because of the stock split, but if you were to look at when Tesla really started to break out, it's kind of a crazy roller coaster for Tesla, but I think this was around the level where it really started to take off, right? So you can even just do here. If you didn't want to buy all this thing, if you're looking for long-term buying, this would have been a great level to buy because it's like the breakout from 2019 area. It's where all the participants volume are. So, you know, for people who've been loading up on it, they're probably going to defend that position. They don't want to go in loss. They're like, oh, it's so cheap since 2019. It's the first time it's come this low, right? And this was insane. This was pretty close to that low. Yeah, I don't know if we'll see that price right now, but Tesla has gone on a massive fluctuation for sure. 22 to 23 went down so much. Oh, it went up and went down. So SpaceX could be something like this, but on short term, I do think there's going to be opportunities because it's going to be such a hot topic and a sector. It already is. All this space stuff have been doing so well. Okay, that's it. So good luck with IPO. And maybe people will know how to buy it. Because I didn't look at it this way before, and I thought Phase 1 was going to go up, so I bought it this day. And then it didn't go up, started to go down, so then I sold it. And now that I look back, I'm like, I'm so glad I sold it. Because look at this. I took like minimal loss on it, but yeah, I was like, oh, that's not looking good. But had I looked at this and had the knowledge that I do now, I would have shorted here. Yeah. Alright, that's it. Bye-bye. If you're interested in, if you want to hear me yap more about stocks and trading, feel free to join me here. See ya.